I want answers. The message you've been sending us all week. All TxTag customers, all fed up with customer service.
The hoops you have to jump through to get someone to work with you.
Complaints resurface with the state's tollway billing system after the Texas Department of Transportation first promised to fix it 2 years ago.
But if you're going to build a toll road, it better work the way people expect it to.
Many of you tell us the payment process is actually a lot worse and has you facing major fees.
Yes, nearly 30% of all TxTag accounts have had a bill sent to collections this year alone.
For years, Mila Louvier says she enjoyed the convenience of the TxTag system. She could drive through tolls with no hassle. And TxTag simply drew money automatically from her bank. Then this spring, she started noticing some unexpected charges. So she reached out to TxTag customer service.
Calls to them haven't been helpful.
Louvier says she phoned repeatedly, waiting more than a month just to get a call back from someone who could resolve her problem.
Those calls just didn't come until it was way too late, until they had sent 95% of our account to collections.
In just a short 2-month span, her initial $400 bill had shot up by more than $5,700 in administration fees. And soon, a collections company was demanding she pay up.
I do feel like this is a goal of their customer service, to send people into collections and get as much money off of these fees as they can.
Thank you for calling TxTag customer service.
Louvier is not alone. This year, more than 2.2 million TxTag accounts have been sent to collections, racking up nearly $1 billion in fees for drivers. Linda Sexton heads up toll operations at TxDOT and says those fees can add up fast.
Isn't it a problem if nearly 30% of all TxTag accounts are in collections?
Well, it's not necessarily indicative of a problem. It's very clearly drawn out how a transaction escalates through the process and the applicable fees that will be applied if those notices go unanswered.
It's heartbreaking to listen to those kind of calls every day. And it's all day long.
This former TxTag customer service representative asked us to conceal her identity if she agreed to share what happened when she took her concerns about calls to management.
They do not care if you have a problem with it. That's your job. You do what they say or you can leave. They don't care.
And so you left?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd rather leave than work for a company like that. I'm not going to work for them.
And when she left, she took her employee manual. It says workers must keep their call times to just 5.5 minutes, including hold time.
What happens if the issue is too complex to be able to be resolved in under 5.5 minutes?
There's going to be those instances, and we will certainly take the time that is necessary to ensure that we answer all of the questions and that we answer it to the customer satisfaction.
Still, customer service reps are given a quota. At least 80 calls per day to collect as many payments as possible, but to never inform customers if their accounts are in collections, which might mean they owe a lot more.
They're paying and they're thinking that they're paying their bill, which to me is even more deceitful.
There are 2 major toll roads running through the heart of Representative Tony Dale's Central Texas district. He says they've been a problem and they still are.
We've got a large number of constituents that drive on the roads on a daily basis, and we hear complaints weekly without question.
Including complaints about TxTag customer service.
You would hope that someone makes a call for a complaint, it's handled in a timely manner, and no matter who gets the call, they should be able to address it.
Until the problems are fixed, Representative Dale vows he won't drive on toll roads in Texas and proposes a complete system overhaul.
I think Texas needs a wholly different way to look at this. Myself and other members of the legislature are going to be asking the Speaker to have the Transportation Committee look at this specific problem.
And it looks like the Speaker of the House is already taking notice. We learned in just the few days since we first started telling viewers about this investigation this week, Speaker Joe Straus added toll transparency and stakeholder responsiveness to a list of issues he wants lawmakers to study before the next session. Many of you have told us you've called TxTag and still don't have answers about your bill.
So we are taking your concerns straight to the top of TxDOT.
Check out the homepage at KXAN.com. Click on I Want Answers. Tell us about your experience with customer service and upload your bill. TxTag tells us it will review and help get to the bottom of the bills we deliver to the agency, so let us help right now at KXAN.com.
The customer had not informed us of an address change.
TxTag still blaming dozens of customers for many of those massive TxTag late fees we've been investigating for months. We took your bills straight to the top of TxTag for answers, and they told us the bulk of the problems stem from customers failing to update their address. But as KXAN investigator Brittany Glass uncovered, TxTag has a way to make sure addresses are accurate. It's just not always doing it, and it might be costing you.
Because I don't drive the toll roads, I automatically knew this is not for me.
Andrew Wheeler is largely confined to a wheelchair.
I haven't owned a car in probably a good 30 years.
He says it doesn't make sense he's been receiving TxTag bills over the past year for multiple drivers he doesn't know at his own home address where he's lived for nearly 2 decades.
These poor guys, you know, they have, I'm sure, not a clue that there's some outstanding bill that they haven't received, you know.
One of those bills was meant for this man, Nathan Fryer.
I don't even understand how that works. Like, how is he tied to me at all? That's a little alarming.
Especially since Fryer doesn't even own the vehicle listed on the bill anymore. He sold it early last year, then the new owner sold it again, all verified through the state's Department of Motor Vehicles. But the bill still went to the wrong address.
They're still racking up bills in my name in North Austin, which I am obviously not driving on that highway.
TxTag tells us drivers are supposed to update their addresses if their TxTag bills are being sent somewhere they don't live. Why was the collections agency able to identify their new address, but TxTag was not?
The initial invoices went to the wrong address because we did not have that information available to us. The customer had not informed us of an address change.
But TxTag should be able to verify addresses on its own, which should help cut down on confusion and massive collection fees. You see, under Texas law and through this interagency contract, TxTag is supposed to use DMV's record system to track down drivers who pay by mail on the toll roads, or get it to the right place through other reliable means. In Fryer's case, the DMV says it has the correct address for the current owner, who we also tracked down, just to make sure. There are huge discrepancies with the address system, the way that TxTag works with DMV. Things aren't adding up.
That's not what we're seeing at all.
At the latest Texas Transportation Commission meeting, an agency spokesperson blocked our questions from commissioners. Bills are getting sent to people that they shouldn't be getting sent to, and that's why people aren't getting their bills.
We are using the addresses that we have with DMV, so they should be getting their bills.
Fryer never did. He says he never received any TxTag bills at the home where he's lived the last 7 years during the time in question.
I'm sure I'm not the only person. Texas is a big state. There's got to be lots of folks out there who have $10,000 bills that have no idea they have them. And that's just alarming. They got to find a new system.
We have some good news tonight. As we've learned, a new fee structure is set to take effect on March 1st, and it should help with future toll charges.
And KXAN investigator Brittany Glass tells us about some other big changes in the works and hopefully relief in sight for at least some of the millions of TxTag customers who've racked up massive fines in the past year.
We've learned by the end of this month, the collections agency sending drivers all those late fees will no longer be contracted with TxTag. Since right around the time we started investigating, there have been no additional accounts sent to collections.
Hundreds of complaints to our investigative team and a nearly year-long KXAN investigation, the Texas Department of Transportation is now waiving more than $1 billion of debt. 2.2 million accounts were sent to collections last year alone.
A nationwide development for our tollway billing investigation.
If the state of Florida is not going to protect the consumer, then I'm going to try to.
U.S. senators are calling on the Federal Trade Commission to investigate the vendor contracted with the Texas Department of Transportation to operate the state's tollway system. In Texas and several other states, Conduit has faced complaints of inaccurate toll charges, mistaken late fees, and wrongful penalties. That criticism comes not only from Texas, but we've also discovered Michigan, California, New York, New Hampshire, Maryland, and Florida, where investigator Brittany Glass found lawmakers are pushing their state to cease ties with the company. That begs the question, what will Texas do now?
We've uncovered state records showing just a month after our investigation aired, the Texas Department of Transportation began seeking information for a possible future vendor to replace Conduent, which runs the TxTag system. TxDOT tells us it's now in the process of purchasing software that will be specifically tailored to run this system. But the software will take time to develop, so Conduent's contract with the state has been extended for 2 years. Now Texas lawmakers will have to decide, is that too long for drivers to suffer through more possible problems, and should they step in sooner? Lawmakers in Florida say enough is enough. Some are so unhappy with Conduent, it's even pushed the Florida Department of Transportation to suspend payments to Conduent, which operates the SunPass system there.
The vendor here told us that they could accomplish this, and they've utterly failed. So it's time now for FDOT to hold funds, charge penalties, hold them accountable, drag them into court, whatever needs to be done.
It is clear that these folks are not qualified to do this job, yet we have awarded them a gigantic contract even though they had a terrible track record. We should wipe the slate clean and start over.
We reached out to Conduent. Confidentiality agreements prevent them from saying much, but sometimes issues arise and they have the capability to resolve them. Back home, the problems drivers here have faced haven't been lost on TxDOT. We discovered since our investigation started, TxDOT has withheld more than $312,000 in payments to Conduent for not meeting the terms of its contract. And TxDOT says since the end of 2014, that amount's risen to $2.4 million. We'll, of course, continue following this story for you.
Thanks, Brittany. As we mentioned at the top of our report, Florida's U.S. Senator Bill Nelson and also Senator Gary Peters of Michigan, both members of the Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation, have sent the FTC a letter on this matter saying state DOTs are responsible for addressing harm to their citizens. However, they also believe there is a role for the FTC given Conduent's practices have directly burdened consumers. They suggest the company's mismanagement could be considered unfair under the FTC Act and that the Commission should explore whether Conduent is breaking the law. This is directly tied to what we've been investigating for the past year, something that saved drivers here from paying more than $1 billion in fines. We discovered a web of entities behind problems associated with billing errors here in Texas, one of which was Conduent. After we started digging, the state consolidated those entities, putting Conduent in charge of the bulk of the tollway system. That's something that still concerns lawmakers here, especially after learning what's happening around the nation with the company. State Representative Tony Dale of Cedar Park has a number of toll roads in his district. He says Conduent needs to be replaced. He tells KXAN the FTC will find what many Texas drivers already know, namely that customer service and accuracy in billing is sorely lacking.
Our investigation helps spark calls for a federal investigation into whether Conduent is breaking the law. Now KXAN investigator Brittany Glass is looking into an all-new problem that could involve your credit card account.
Brittany, this all began with a whistleblower from the Texas Department of Transportation reaching out to us.
That's exactly right. But let's be clear, this does not mean your account or even the TxTag billing system has been hacked or breached. What we do know is this. TxTag contracts with Conduent to collect your money when you pay for the tolls you're driving through. Like any company that processes customer credit card information, Conduent is required to be PCI compliant or payment card industry compliant. It's not a law, but it is a security standard meant to protect your financial information. Credit card companies enforce the rules on vendors like Conduent, which we've discovered has lost compliance with 2 major credit cards, Visa and MasterCard. Meaning if you paid a toll with one of those cards recently, this is a story you can't afford to miss.
When we first began investigating TxTag's billing problems, Tiffany Edge reached out to us for help with unexplained late fees.
Bills getting later and later, not getting a bill at all. Calling customer service is a nightmare.
Edge links her Visa credit card to autopay when she drives through tolls.
If I'm giving you that information and I'm trusting you to take that money out of my account, then I'm hoping you're using every safeguard you've got to make sure nobody else has access to that information.
But after our latest discovery, she says that convenience is now a concern. Within days of TxDOT's executive director renewing TxTag's contract with Conduent this summer, the billing vendor lost its PCI compliance with Visa and MasterCard. Edge and other customers we've contacted say we're the first to notify them of this security issue.
They should be telling the public what's going on, especially if they're providing a road for you to use but charging you to use it.
This is important stuff, and we expect companies to take it seriously if they're going to have access to this kind of information.
Experts at the Center for Identity at the University of Texas tell us a company losing PCI compliance means customers lose the trust of safety for their personal information.
It's your name, your card number, the expiration date, the little CVV numbers on the back, the magnetic stripe information and the chip information that might be stored on the card.
So what happened? TxDOT tells us a transition at Conduent's data center delayed its compliance recertification. And as soon as they were notified of the situation, they immediately hired a third-party consultant to provide a security risk assessment of the TxTag systems to ensure there are no risks to their customers. And the credit card payment system continues to work as it should.
It matters what the banks and the credit card processors say. And right now they say that they're not compliant, which means there's some gap that needs to be resolved.
State Representative Tony Dale sits on the House Cybersecurity Committee and has 2 toll roads in his Cedar Park district. He says the credit card concerns we brought to his attention are yet another reason his constituents and drivers across Texas need a TxTag system overhaul now.
I can guarantee you I'll be filing several bills during the next session related to toll roads and how they work, and I know that there's a number of my colleagues that will be doing the same.
With a state agency, you would hope they have some of the safest safeguards against your information. It makes me very leery of making another payment through them right now.
You might have noticed these billboards or even TxDOT's website pushing people to sign up for a TxTag account to save big instead of just paying each toll individually by mail. Well, that incentive might also be putting you at more risk when it comes to this issue. Experts tell us PCI compliance is even more crucial for companies that store credit card information for recurring payments, like what's required to have a TxTag.
TxTag customers unable to pay their accounts today as the tollway system was down online and others turned away in person. This comes after we recently revealed financial security concerns as the vendor behind your bill has been out of credit card compliance with Visa and MasterCard.
With your personal information in question, the Texas Department of Transportation told us it was conducting a third-party review, but that the system would be up and running.
After today's shutdown, we asked TxDOT for an update. A spokesperson simply called it maintenance, but investigator Brittany Glass found some customers just aren't buying that.
This is just the latest in a year-long struggle for drivers. From sudden, unexplained, massive late fees back then to today, unable to pay their bills, worried about what will happen if they don't get them in on time, even when they came here to the Customer Service Center in North Austin. Customers tell us they had no choice but to take time away from work to come here when they couldn't log on to the TxTag system online to pay their bills. And when they got here, some tell us they were turned away and told to come back later. We first saw this error on TxTag's website this morning, saying the site was temporarily unavailable. It doesn't say why the site was down or when it would be back up. Some who called TxTag said they had extended wait times. And one man said they told him the site would be back up by 2 p.m. Hours after that point, nothing, except fear from drivers those late fees will start racking back up again.
No notice, no nothing, no communication. You're wasting people's time, not giving any notice, advance notice, even at that, adds to the checklist of TxTag's neglect.
We've reached out to both TxDOT and its billing vendor Conduent to ask what's going on. We are working to get answers for you.
The state's tollway billing system is finally up and running again today after a major outage prevented customers from paying their bills for much longer than expected. It was just the latest TxTag trouble KXAN has investigated over the past year. Earlier this week, viewers began reaching out to us, fearing they would face massive late fees like in the past, even after trying to pay online, by phone, and in person. All options were down for days without notice that maintenance was taking longer than expected. Well, good news, the system is back up and running, and after our questions, the Texas Department of Transportation tells us customers experiencing problems during the outage will not face additional late fees. The problem stemmed from what TxDOT called scheduled maintenance, but we discovered it hasn't been down this long in recent history. Now you can pay your bill, but TxDOT says expect delays. They are experiencing higher than normal call volumes as maintenance wraps up.